How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. This is a huge week for the market. I want to explain what's happening and take a look at something that I found very interesting on Bitcoin and who's buying, who's holding, how much is actually left to buy. I know it seems like stuff that we talk about a lot, but this is a new website that is very insightful that I want to talk about. If you don't mind, hit subscribe. Turn on the bell notification underneath the video to see future videos just like this one. Also, in case you didn't know, I do have a beginner playlist. In case you're watching this and it doesn't make a lot of sense what I'm talking about, I do have a beginner-friendly playlist that I will put on the end screen. Or if you know someone that's trying to get into crypto, maybe they've started to nibble, they ask you a lot of questions, maybe you can send that over to them. So I'll put that on the end screen. But while you're down there, hit subscribe if you don't mind. You can also check out the link to Margex where you can trade cryptocurrency. This is not great for everyone, but if you are someone that wants to amplify some returns, if you are someone that wants to trade and play some of the short-term movements with crypto, you can definitely check out that link underneath the video. There's also a link down there to HGAaccess in case you're someone that wants to get information that you can't get anywhere else. We have had a lot of people join this recently because we have been able to pick up on some really good cryptocurrencies with some really good returns recently. Now, Bitcoin is at a really interesting point. It's pumped up the last few days. You can see this big candle. I believe this was on Friday because of the fact that for the first time we actually saw net inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs. And yeah, it pumped up the price of Bitcoin. As I've said, GBTC can only sell so much Bitcoin before the selling pressure wears off and there's more demand than there is selling pressure and outflows. So this was really exciting to see. And we're at a very key point right now. Like I will get to why this week's so crazy in a second. But you can see this trend line that we had been bouncing off of since October, where we stayed right in this channel. We blew above it. Then we used it as support, actually. I don't even have the line in here, but you can see it like right here. Basically, we went in this channel for a long time and we broke above it a little bit, but we basically just stayed in there. We had used it as support for a little while, but then we broke below it. Now we're at the bottom end of this other trend line, this bottom trend line, and we are just so close to breaking out above it. We got rejected today by it right around 42,700, and if we break above that, that could be extremely bullish. And if we have one more day of inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs, that's very possible, especially if we flip above this and then turn it into support. I think the narrative follows the price action of Bitcoin. So if we fall down, people are talking about all the bearish things that are happening. If we go up, people are talking about all the bullish things that are happening. People will get greedy and feel like this was their last chance to get a nice 20% dip, which is something I said the whole time, like I am dollar cost averaging. When we see prices like this, I'm dollar cost averaging. Now, of course, we could always just get rejected and then fall back down. You know, it's really hard to tell the short term, but maybe you want to trade this if we get a confirmed breakout and then we move back up to maybe a new local top around 50,000. That would be really interesting. And we do have a big week ahead of us. To be clear, we have some of the biggest earnings in the biggest companies announcing earnings. So this is the biggest week for earnings this week. Some of the companies include Pfizer, GM, UPS, Starbucks, Alphabet, which is Google, Microsoft, AMD, MasterCard, Qualcomm. We also have Amazon, Apple, and Meta. I mean, these are 6 of the largest companies, something like that. 5 or 6 of the largest companies in the world or in the US, all announcing earnings within 3 days. Now, some of them have talked specifically about crypto in the past, like Amazon, using like an NFT marketplace, getting into gaming. We also know that on Monday, Google is starting to allow crypto-related ads. Maybe we'll hear something about crypto from these companies. I'm guessing not. Maybe like MasterCard or something like that. We'll hear some news about how they're using crypto or what they think about crypto, throwing off their business. But in general, it just, I think, influences the stock market, which also influences crypto indirectly. I showed this article, I think it was yesterday, but when the S&P 500 hits all-time highs, we typically see that year a gain of 15%. So we've already hit an all-time high for the S&P 500. We've hit a high for the NASDAQ 100 as well. Would not be surprised if we continue to move up this year, especially with the Fed lowering rates, which is something that I've talked about before, but still important to watch these earnings because if they do come in strong, that'll be very bullish for crypto and for stocks as well. We also have a lot of employment data coming in this week. We have ADP employment Wednesday, initial jobless claims Thursday, and then we have payrolls and unemployment rate, hourly wages, just a lot of stuff happening Friday as well. The expectation is 3.7% unemployment rate. 3.8% unemployment rate, coming up from 3.7 last month. Pay attention to this. This will affect everything. This is something that I didn't know about. I didn't know about this website until today. This is Rob from Digital Asset News. He was talking about this website in his video today. This is a website called Buy Bitcoin Worldwide, and it talks about Bitcoin treasuries. It shows you how much is held by ETFs, countries, public companies, private companies. And I want to take it one step further. I want to look at how this has changed by using the Wayback Machine. So today, about 815,000 Bitcoin are held by ETFs, 452,000 by countries, 277,000 by public companies, 477,000 from private companies, and then 40,000 by Bitcoin mining companies. Now, I've seen other numbers about this on this too. I've seen like 2 million from Bitcoin mining companies. You have to remember with any of these entities, countries, public companies, we don't know who all the owners of Bitcoin are. Like there's 20 million Bitcoin out there. And a lot of Bitcoin is probably held by private companies, by countries, and we don't even know. It's just not public information. Like if Russia was buying or if China was buying or if the US was secretly buying, they might not be telling us, right? They just want a strategic reserve. So this is just the Bitcoin that we know. Now this equates to about up here, about 22,000 Bitcoin by 71 entities. I guarantee you there are more than 100 entities that hold Bitcoin that are companies or countries, ETFs. But this accounts for about 9.6% of the 21 million overall Bitcoin. It's over 10% now of the available Bitcoin. So what's so interesting about this is, of course, we know MicroStrategy holds some, Marathon holds some, Tesla holds some. You scroll down here, the US holds a good amount, 207,000, China 194,000. It talks about where we know this from, filings and sources, news, that kind of stuff. Private companies that own Mt. Gox obviously is going to be distributing a lot of Bitcoin to people that used to have it on their exchange sometime in the future. Block One, Tether Holdings, which actually came out of nowhere, like Tether as in USDT, the largest stablecoin. They take your money, give you USDT back, then they go take your money and put it in treasuries, and then they make money from that, and then one of the things they do is buy Bitcoin with it. 66,000 Bitcoin or about $3 billion. Tezos Foundation, etc. You can look through this. This has changed a lot since just a few years ago. What's so interesting is going back about 2.5 years using the Wayback Machine, which just takes snapshots of different websites, we can actually see how much was owned by these entities. It was about 1.47 million Bitcoin. So over the last 2.5 years, a quarter of a decade, they've added about 600,000 Bitcoin. Now at this time, MicroStrategy owned about 105,000 Bitcoin, about 55% of what they own now. Tesla owned a lot more Bitcoin than they own now because they sold Bitcoin at one point. Galaxy owns some. Voyager Digital, which isn't even a company anymore. They went bankrupt. They held some. You can scroll down. Barely any countries held Bitcoin. Ukraine and Bulgaria were the only two listed. Back at the time, Bulgaria had 200,000 Bitcoin. Private companies, Tether wasn't even a company that owned Bitcoin. At least it wasn't public that they owned Bitcoin, which is so interesting because now they own 66,000 and they have said that they're going to spend 15% of their earnings buying back Bitcoin to add to their treasury. So there's just been a huge change up. What's really crazy about this is how much these entities own right now. 2 million Bitcoin. There's only 1.4 million Bitcoin or 1.3 million Bitcoin left to be mined. And these entities are swallowing up Bitcoin like crazy. I mean, 2 million Bitcoin, a lot has come in the last year or two. Even with some companies selling off, there are countries and companies that have been buying more. They literally can't double the amount of Bitcoin they have from the new supply. They have to buy it from existing holders. And even if they want to buy that 1.4 million Bitcoin that's going to be mined in the future, they literally have to wait 117 years until the last Bitcoin is mined, or 116 years. There's not much Bitcoin left. Like they're going to have to buy Bitcoin from holders that already have Bitcoin that want to sell to go into cash. Now, there are probably a million different people that hold one bit. Well, there are a million different wallets that hold one Bitcoin. Probably about 400, 500,000 holders because some people have multiple wallets. 400,000 holders are going to have to sell to these entities. If they want a whole coin, of course, there are people that hold less than a Bitcoin that will sell, but there just aren't that many people to buy this Bitcoin from. They're held by a very small group of people. Like when you think about how much wealth is in Bitcoin, how big Bitcoin is getting, almost $1 trillion right now, and there are about 400,000 people, 400,000 entities that hold it. There are 8 billion people in the world, and barely anyone holds one Bitcoin or even 0.1 Bitcoin. There's just not much left either. So it's fascinating to see the amount of Bitcoin that's been bought up. And even if we went a little bit further back, Tesla didn't hold any Bitcoin before 2021. MicroStrategy started buying in 2020. So you go like 2 years back further, and there was barely any Bitcoin, probably under a million in Bitcoin that had been held by ETFs, countries, public companies, private companies, and they're all swallowing up. It's a strategy now by Tether to go out and spend some of their hard-earned money on Bitcoin. MicroStrategy is leveraging long by basically taking cash flow, but also getting loans to buy Bitcoin. And it makes sense. Even countries, of course, they don't say that they're doing this, but they could essentially just go print more money and then buy a scarce asset with it, something that is finite. So they can print however much they want and then go buy more Bitcoin if they wanted to. They could swallow up a lot of the supply. Now, of course, that would send up the price very quickly. That is the good thing about owning some Bitcoin now. There are all these entities that are trying to get your Bitcoin, because even just over the last few days, right? How much Bitcoin has Fidelity? How much Bitcoin has BlackRock been buying? Nearly 100,000 Bitcoin in the last 2 weeks. That's a lot of supply. I mean, that's over 100 days worth of supply at today's rates. In 85 days, 90 days, whenever the next Bitcoin halving is, that'll be 200 days of supply. And this is just when certain entities can start buying, like the pensions, the financial advisors, old retired couple that wants to buy Bitcoin, or their son says that they should go buy Bitcoin, and then they decide to buy $100,000 worth, $500,000 worth of Bitcoin. Some people are just getting the ability to buy this. And you can see, I mean, of course, some money is coming from Grayscale. I've seen so many different people talking about this recently, not really knowing what's happening with Grayscale, why people are selling Grayscale. They think that, I saw someone that said that they think that the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, GBTC, was not turned into a spot ETF, but they had a different ETF that was started up, and they think people are going from GBTC into the other ETF. That's not what's happening. People are selling GBTC just because the fees are high, but they're putting it in other ETFs, and there is new demand as well. This is just the beginning. This is a huge unlock, especially with the accounting rules changing too, making it so much easier for public companies to buy Bitcoin. If 5 more companies, the size of Tether, the size of MicroStrategy, start buying Bitcoin, we're above $100,000. I guarantee it. In the next 6 months or a year, we're above $100,000 if some multi-billion-dollar companies start going and buying hundreds of millions of dollars of Bitcoin. I think we are set up to make a lot of money over the coming years. Now, I did want to just hit on this. This is a cryptocurrency that I'm investing into. I'm not telling you to invest in it. You can do whatever you want, but IvanPay just is now licensed in Europe, offering crypto payment acceptance and money transfers across Europe. Our services simplify cryptocurrency transactions for merchants. This is a company that's got a lot of big partnerships, And I believe they're having a token sale this week, or their token generation event. They're followed by Tencent, which is the launch pad that they're launching on. Digital Asset News, Rob, who I was talking about here. If you haven't seen his channel, definitely go check it out. But I'd be paying attention to this one. This one could be interesting for a token launch. Now, of course, do your own research. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just trying to point out some of the things that I find so interesting, so bullish about the crypto market. And then, you can put your own spin on it. Let me know your thoughts on all this underneath the video. Definitely check out Margex if you want to start trading cryptocurrency. Check out HGAccess as well. There are a couple more days where you can get in and possibly win a full-time, forever membership there. We're giving one away for the month of January because this is when we launched the Patreon, and we already have over 150 people in there. So definitely check it out if you're interested underneath the video. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I will see you in the next one. Bye.